Hello, welcome to Unbearable. Today, this I believe episode 14, or yeah, it's 14. Today we're going to talk about an article I saw in Dread Central, which is 5 of the most bizarre horror casting choices ever made, presumably horror, obviously horror movies. So let me just go right to it and put it on the screen. Now, I will do something about the banner, getting it to. Matter of fact, I'm going to take that. Let me shut that image down. There we go. Okay. So Dread Central is a really good horror site. Time up-to-date news, good reviews, things like that. And the premise here, of course, is that if you read my subject card, is bizarre castings in horror movies. Is there such a thing? And I'll get to that and my take on this at the end, right? So let's look at the movies they discuss and the casting choices they discuss, right? So, first movie that comes up after the advertisements and the pretty women that are involved in this is Dracula 2000, which is a very underrated horror movie. I recommend everyone go and see this movie. It's a good balance between horror and fun and adventure that you need in a vampire film. I mean, there's really, to me, 3 types of vampire films, like out-and-out horror of some sort, out-and-out like fun adventure-y some sort, and then something with in the middle with a little bit of a comedic twist. And like this has a lot of satire. If you watch it, there's a lot of satire of the vampire genre with some of the choices they make, but also has a lot of seriousness to it as well. In any case, Vitamin C. Now, for those who don't know who Vitamin C is, she was kind of a musician, celebrity type from back in the 90s. There was a lot of, she's very pretty, obviously, and a lot of fan jokes about, I need me some vitamin C, you know. The other two with her are Jerry Ryan and, I remember the actress's name on the left, but she's currently in Blue Bloods. And they were the brides of Dracula for that film, you know. And they mentioned why is vitamin C an odd choice. Well, honestly, to playing a bride of Dracula, you want pretty women who can contort, to be honest, you know. So I don't know if that was very bizarre, and not in the sense that I will mention later, you know. Now, Repo the Genetic Opera, Paris Hilton. This is another famous case of a movie which you may or may not like. It's gross out horror. Is love it or hate it, and it's type of stuff. I tend to like Japanese gross out horror more than, let's say, American or European gross out horror. You know, like Tokyo Gore Police is a pure art form of the genre. You know, and Paris Hilton, for those who don't know now, was a celebrity famous more because of porn videos of her that leaked more than anything. You know. Now this is a strange one in Cry Wolf and John Bon Jovi, who's the pitcher here, obviously, right? So you might say to yourself, why is it strange? Well, John Bon Jovi back in the 90s was trying to start a little movie career for himself. And the role he is most famous for of the B-grade horror films he was doing several of those is the bad sequel to John Carpenter's Vampires, which was called Los Muertos. Movie should never have had a sequel based on its plot. And it was a classic sort of like bad trope of horror where the hero has a katana and he's angsty, but he's a Gary Stu, but that's all. Again, another musical celebrity. You notice a theme so far. We have two musical celebrities and one dubious celebrity. And here's the first one we get to. Again, a sequel that should never have been made. American Psycho did not need a sequel. The concept of the film, really didn't merit it. And Mila Kunis is an actual actress as opposed to a celebrity or porn celebrity, you know. And then the weirdest one in a way. This is about the only good thing about this Halloween film. Honestly, almost all the modern Halloween films have been garbage. I thought the Rob Zombie's Halloween film, while not really a good remake, was a decent horror film. If it were something else, and Michael Myers and all, it was just another one. It probably would have been considered better. But this is probably the best thing about all these modern Halloween films was Busta Rhymes fighting Michael Myers. You should go watch that scene, you know. And so that's their choices for this, right? So what does it mean to have a bizarre choice in a horror film? Like, is it possible to have that? I mean, what what is or is this me making a judgment? Because I've seen so many horror films that I've seen so many possible alleged bizarre castings that it just doesn't make sense to me to have uh, how you would say that something odd about a bizarre casting, like a celebrity guest star or whatever. So we looked at the article on Dread Central. I'm going to give you some my takes on this issue. Well, recently, those of you who listen to rock music know that Meatloaf, a rock legend, died. Now, some of you might not know that Meatloaf had a sort of on the side movie career where he always liked to play oddball roles, and he was in several horror films. Okay, so I'll give a little scroll over to Meatloaf's filmography here. You see, it's quite a. Most people probably even don't know that Meatloaf was in all of these movies and TV shows. Okay, but he liked to act, and he liked to play weird roles in a lot of his films, no matter what the type they were. So here's the most here's a movie called Black Dog that he did, which was a Patrick Swayze action piece. This is kind of sad because it's right around when Patrick Swayze was hitting it big as an action star, and then he passed away shortly thereafter, if I remember the sequencing correctly. And Meatloaf played played a psychotic trucker named Red, who started out as Meatloaf's employer, who was giving him a job, and he was an arms dealer. And many of us could imagine Meatloaf singing in his operatic style some sort of heavy song while he's running you down with a truck is maniacally, you know. I mean, it almost was that in the film. He wasn't singing; he was yelling, but we know Meatloaf's personality, you know. And then, of course, anyone who knows this knows that Meatloaf was in the Rocky Horror Picture Show. He played Eddie, who had a great musical lineup, got killed, and became a great dinner, you know. Uh, and then we have another Meatloaf film, which is way more recent. It was called what do you call it? Stage Fright. And here's an article I will link to below from film slash film, whatever you call it nowadays. A lot of people don't know about this film. It was one of his last films he ever did. I believe there was another film after this. We can check. All right, I'll take a look. Yeah. Yep. So he did two films in 2014, which were his last ones. I haven't seen Wishing and Hopping. But back to Stage Fright. Stage Fright is a comedic horror film that's kind of like a satire of the Phantom of the Opera, not especially the original play, which was very, very heavy, as opposed to the Andrew Lloyd Webber. Original movie was very heavy, as opposed to Andrew Lloyd Webber's version, which was more adventure-y and arty with all the music. You know, that would be worth a watch because he plays a very straight-laced producer of the fictional play, which was called The Haunting of the Opera, and he turned out to be not so straight-laced. I won't spoil it. I'll just say that much. You know. So obviously Meatloaf was cast what could be considered a bizarre casting, but he's made a career of being a bizarre casting in all these films. So what else can a bizarre casting give us? Well, consider another film from 1999, called Deep Blue Sea. Deep Blue Sea was a standard sort of, big evil science goes wrong, makes a killer shark movie. Killer sharks in this case. It's cookie cutter in that regard. Science goes wrong. Morally lacking and ethically weak scientist makes a super intelligent powered shark to save the world. That's kind of the theme. And had that happened, had that just been the theme and something else not happened, this film would have been forgotten. Okay, this movie was basically has been full of tropes and laughably bad. Test audience screenings hated two particular things. One of which I'm going to comment on, which saved the film, and the other which I won't because it's a spoiler to the altered film. So the test screenings all, almost unilaterally, loved the character named Preacher and hated that he died early by was killed by the sharks. Hated it, but loved the character Preacher. Preacher was the base's cook. This is a base in the middle of the ocean. Test audience again loved him, and they loved him so much that the one after all the test screenings, the producers and directors said we have to redo this whole film to take into account these two things that the test audience hates. So they rewrote the whole film to make Preacher one of the main heroes of the film, and and give him a much more expanded role, right? And why the audience loved Preacher so much? Well, because they cast LL Cool J in the role as Preacher. There's him with his pet parrot Frankie. And those of you who remember LL Cool J, he was a big-time rapper, very charismatic. I couldn't think of a modern equivalent of him because he's kind of unique, and he did a lot of clean rapping, but he could still express anger, and he could do both. He could do both party rapping and sort of hardcore anger rapping, you know. But LL Cool J always had a lot of charisma and knows how to project it, and he did that in the role. And this was this is the type of thing you give to a celebrity to maybe get their crowd to watch the movie and give him a little boost that maybe they want to see if they can do a movie career. And this film exploded for him, even though he didn't have a career after this, because I guess they didn't want to make more roles like this or whatever. But basically, this saved this film, made it completely watchable that they made the two changes. The one which is expanding the role of this character, and the other one which I'm not going to tell because it spoiled the film. You know? And lastly, let's consider one more circumstance of a horror film that had a bizarre casting that, in a way, made it better. So there's a horror film from 2010 called The Shrine. I love it. It's probably, if not my favorite horror film, it's number 2. It is amazing, and I'm surprised that it didn't get more play. I will say, without spoiling it, it's in the demonic possession genre. Okay, and I will say it's in that line of films where you can only watch it once for the reveals, but then you watch it again for the artistry of it. Okay, so that's why you really don't even read anything about the film. Just watch it. Okay, and the other thing I will say is there have been versions of this film since then that have subtitles with translations of the Polish dialogue in the film. That is, the director and writer intended for you, the audience, not to understand what the people are saying when they're talking in Polish. They use it as part of the horror element. So unless you're hearing challenged, don't turn the subtitles on, or if you have the subtitles, see if you can use the version subtitles that don't translate to Polish. Okay, it will ruin some of the mystery of the film of what's going on. But who is our bizarre casting? Well, this man here, nowadays you may not really know him as well, but his name is Aaron Ashmore, and he was most well known at the time for playing Jimmy Olsen in Smallville. Jimmy Olsen is a happy-go-lucky character, a bit of an adventure hound, obviously the fearless reporter, and not the guy you expect to be in a demonic horror film fighting darkness in a hopeless quest, so to speak. And I think having him cast in the role he was in really boosted this film's sense of threat, because one thing actors carry who have signature roles can do is they'll often carry their sort of Q factor, how much you know them and root for them, from one role to the other. It's like for example, anytime one of us sees one of the Jared Padalecki or Jensen Ackles, who played Sam and Dean, the Winchester brothers, the roles, you tend to always root for them because you rooted for them for 15 years on Supernatural. Same thing with Aaron Ashmore. At the time, all of us loved him as Jimmy on Smallville, and those who saw this film were like rooting for him to triumph against darkness because we were rooting for Jimmy. So, what are your thoughts on bizarre castings in horror films? Is there such a thing, or is it a good thing? Do you have any thoughts on other possible bizarre castings in horror films? Share your comments below. If you like it, smash the like button. If you don't, smash the dislike button. If you want to follow me more, hit that subscribe button and share my content. I'm hopefully building something here, and hopefully you will be part of it. Thank you. This has been Unbearable, and I'm signing off.